Waiting to admit, I think Amy's waiting.
Oh, shoot.
I hear they're starting to do like the design and stuff for the widen the road there on the Gila Reservation.
Good morning. Agenda item number 1 is the call to order. It's now 10 a.m. on January 30th, 2025. I will call this meeting of the Citizens Clean Elections Commission to order. I'm Mark Kimball. We will begin by taking attendance. Commissioners, please identify yourselves for the record.
Christina Werther.
Caleb Payton.
Commissioner Chan
Sorry, Commissioner Amy Chan here.
and Commissioner Titla.
Here, good morning.
Good morning, Commissioner Titla. We have all 5 of us here. Item 2, discussion possible action on minutes from our December 5th meeting. Commissioners, I believe you've all had a chance to review the minutes. Are there any corrections, additions to the minutes from our December 5th meeting? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve them?
I motion to approve the meeting minutes on December 5th, 2024.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved by Commissioner Werther, seconded by Commissioner Payton, that we approve the minutes for the December 5th meeting, excuse me. I will call the roll. Commissioner Werther,
Aye.
Commissioner Payton,
Aye.
Commissioner Titla,
Aye.
Commissioner Chan.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. The minutes are approved 5-0. Item 3 is the discussion and possible action on the executive director's reports. Tom?
Thank you, commissioners, for all being here. I wanted to highlight a couple of things. We'll have another meeting before then, but the deadlines for before the election, but the next consolidated election date's March 11th, and the biggest election, I think maybe the only election, that is Tucson, where they're holding a half-cent sales tax increase referendum, and we have information on that on the website. I also want to highlight that we have a new page on the website that's also highlighted today in our CRM newsletter. Is that the right word for that? The People's Ledger, which is going to be a compilation of articles on relevant election topics that Alec has been putting together. So we're happy to launch that today. And as you can see, we're gearing up for this year in terms of how we do our outreach with throughout the counties and with the state. And Gina and Avery have been working on that. I wanted to highlight that we will be filing our response to the petition for review of the Center for Arizona Policy versus Arizona Secretary of State case at the State Supreme Court shortly. So just because it's a little confusing to me, I wanted to lay out that we now have so there's 2 cases related to Prop 211 that are at the State Supreme Court. One they've accepted review for, that's Toma versus Fontes, and then one that is pending their review, which is Center for Arizona Policy versus Secretary of State. The 2 cases are different. They raise different issues. The Toma case is principally about sort of separation of powers, delegation of authority issues, as well as severability of the one clause of the Voters' Right to Know Act that the Court of Appeals took issue with but found severable. And that oral argument for that case is going to be on March 6th at ASU. The court goes out and does oral argument at the universities throughout the year, and they usually try to pick something that sounds interesting. I mean, people love separation of power. Well, law students love separation of powers. And then the other one we'll wait and see. And then the third case, which is the federal case, Americans versus Prosperity, they'll we're anticipating oral argument in May, and we're anticipating that will be here in Phoenix. So that's sort of the major developments there. I did want to highlight on the legislative front, we have there's a number of election bills moving that Mike's report highlights. We had a bill yesterday up called HB 2376 that would put county-wide candidates into the voter education guide, and passed out of committees 7-0. We've worked with the legislative staff on both sides to talk through this bill, and we think it's good. We've looked at the budget implications, and they're fairly minimal. What Gina pointed out, and which I think is a smart way to look at it, is what it essentially does would be, in statewide election years with the governor and the Secretary of State and all those other offices, the book is, it basically would mean that in the off years, what the off book would offer the same, essentially the same amount of information as it does in terms of pages in a year where you have the governor, right? Because all the county offices are in the off year from the governor. It also addresses a thing that we hear pretty regularly on the phone from voters during the election cycle, which is they get their book and they want to know where the county candidates are. I think it also, at least so far, shows that people see the book as a tool that is that has that works and works for both candidates and voters. So that is that was good, and we'll keep track of that.
If I could
sure.
interrupt you
Please,
for a
go
second,
ahead.
I just want to make a point of clarification. You said this is countywide offices, but it's also members of the Board of Supervisors who are not countywide.
The intent of the bill is to capture, at least as I understand it, county attorney, county treasurer, et cetera, and the county boards. The language might end up getting clarified to deal with the potential of what countywide means. In other words, county supervisors are elected to serve the entire county, but they're elected by district. I think that many of those. A lot of these races, especially outside of Maricopa County, aren't contested, quite honestly. So yeah. So the idea would be to get the top level of the county races, and those are the ones we get questions about, quite honestly. I think the bigger issue for us would be if they were to go to the precinct level county offices like constable and JP. That would become problematic cost-wise. It would become a major issue mail-wise, and then it would become and it would impose some significant staff time costs. So, our point of view on that is that we can absorb and want to absorb the need for the in the county offices that people that are top of mind to voters. The few voters who have ever called us looking for constable or JP. At the end of the day, the whole enterprise of providing information to voters about candidates, whether it's our debates or the voter education guide. At the end of the day, you have to exercise judgment. We do it all the time, about what is viable, what is not, what is going to diminish the, in other words, you can't have the voter education program's requirements diminish the ability to do the voter education duties, right? That's really the balance we're trying to get at when we evaluate these kind of proposals.
Okay. Is that all on your report?
Well, I just want to mention that
Okay.
if you haven't, we have moved through a number of the Prop 211 complaints, and I'm hopeful to get the remainder of those reviewed here and then by next month. And so that's pretty much it.
I have one question regarding the People's Ledger.
Yeah.
So it will contain articles that explore, summarize, or explain relevant election topics and ways to become involved and engaged. So is there going to be some review of these articles to make sure they are factual and not adding to the confusion of election disinformation? I mean, everything else we have on our website is ours,
Yeah.
with the exception of the candidate statements. And so by putting certain articles on our website, we are giving them some stamp of approval almost. So who's going to decide, is this really factual? Is this accurate? Is this something that we want to
Yeah.
be associated with?
Yeah, well, Alex is going to serve as the editor of it, essentially, as if you were and be putting content together as if we were putting together any kind of newsletter. So I think that anything we put out is always going to have we're going to make sure that it's constructive, A, and valid, B, and we do, interestingly enough, we do both, all, I think Gina and Alec and Avery all do presentations on combating, getting good information, how to determine good information or bad information. So those same standards would apply, I think. You want to?
Okay. Gina, did you want to say something?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, to clarify, these articles are originating in-house. So staff and our vendors are writing them. So it's the same content that we would produce just for our website. We're just doing it as more of an article format. We might reference other articles, but for if it's an article from an educator on civic engagement, things like that, or if there's a new poll that's come out, we might do things like that. But the content itself is still being originated by Clean Election staff.
Okay, thank you. That's an important point. Are there
Yeah,
any
I just like to add in, I
Commissioner
appreciate
Payton?
your concern about that, because I would hate for somebody to say that, well, yeah, you're citing one way or the other. I mean, we get enough of that as it is. But, if she's saying that, then I agree that's something that would be a good thing.
Okay, thank you. Alec, did you want to?
I never
comment?
normally get up and speak, but I can talk about it too because I'm involved with this project. Yeah, I can give you an example of like the next 2 months. So we'll be having one for February and one for March. And the topic for February is going to be like the importance of local elections and why participating matters so much, as opposed to the belief that only voting in the statewide ones is important. And March's topic will be about like demystifying the ballot counting process. So it's basically just breaking down the context of how elections work, what our laws are, and stuff like that to kind of give people context and understand elections. So that's the main purpose of it.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other comments from members of the commission about Tom's report? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to item 4, discussion and possible action on the 2025 voter education plan. Our goal this year is to maintain our momentum in providing quality information to voters, keep them engaged with our election process, including issues and candidates, and prepare for 2026 when all of our statewide offices will be on the ballot and we will be electing our first lieutenant governor. Gina is here to outline our plans for 2025. Gina?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, thank you. Okay, we've got slides for you. I always have slides. Okay, we'll jump to the first one, please. So this is our plan for this year. So 2025, just to clarify, there are elections every year. So we know sometimes election officials get asked, well, what do you do, when it's not a presidential election year, things like that. Always an election happening. So we will, of course, be doing our education for voters on the 4 local elections that will happen this year. But this is our plan that we'd like to kick off. I always like to start by giving sort of a lay of the land. So here are the current voter registration numbers from the Secretary of State's office. You can see we have our 5 recognized parties. We still have the Republicans, the Democrats, the Libertarian Party, the No Labels Party, and the Green Party. And then any voter who is not registered with one of those recognized parties, they are classified in the other category. Those would be such as our independents. So you can see we've got still I suppose we could still refer to it as a third, and a third, with those top parties being the Republican Party, and then the independent category, and then the Democratic Party. So those numbers make up the composition of our voter registration for the entire state. So if we go to the next slide, please, we'll take a look at what elections we have coming up. As Tom mentioned in the ED report, for March, there is an election occurring in the city of Tucson. So we have information available on our website for that. Essentially, our process is we will continue up our communications with our local election official partners. We'll gather all of the election information that voters need to know, and we will have that information available on our website. We'll do our paid media outreach, which I'll show in a few slides, but we will continue to educate voters on how they can participate. Again, and as Alec mentioned, with talking about the People's Ledger, just because it's not a presidential election year or it's not a statewide election, these local elections are still important. So, for example, voting on Tucson's all-mail election in the Prop 414, that's going to impact your pocketbook. Looking at some of these local elections, Goodyear, looking at charter amendments, things like this, these have a direct impact on voters, and it's really elections in their backyard. So we want to continue to do that election outreach for our voters across the state. Next slide, please. One of the things that we do every odd year is we kick off research, and we use this research as the basis for how we communicate to voters and what we communicate to voters on. We wouldn't be able to have an effective communications plan and voter education plan without talking to voters directly to see what is it that you need, what are your needs, what are your wants, and how can we meet those needs. So at the end of 2024, we launched a survey where we reached out to voters with questions on the voting process, and we are going to conduct focus groups at the end of February, and really, again, just talking directly to voters, asking them, okay, what education do you need? Are you confident in knowing where your voting location is? Are you confident in the security of the elections? What do you feel that you need? Where did you go to get your information? Who do you talk to get educated on the candidates and the ballot measures, things like that? So we'll take all of this information, and this research will again serve as the basis for how we develop our 2025, but also our 2026 communications plans. So all of the creative work that we do, those communication assets, those TV ads, the radio reads, all of it is tied back to the research and what voters are telling us directly. So that's how we are strategizing and making those decisions. And of course, when we have this research finalized, we're happy to share that with the commission. Next slide, please. So once we know what we need to talk to voters about, we work with our partners to develop an effective from both connecting with the voters, but also cost effective as well, a paid media plan. Because if we want to reach voters across the state, we have to pay, we have to invest to do that. And so we utilize paid media to reach our audience. And we have to know, okay, well, how do we connect with our different populations? We have our young adults, we have our Spanish speaking voters, we've got how we need to reach somebody here in the city of Phoenix is different than when we're looking at a rural county. So we have to look at what communication mechanisms exist for us to connect to those voters and meet them where they are. So we are looking at our population, we're looking at the diversity of our state, and we are looking at, okay, how do we need to reach them? What is the best media tactic that we can do this with? Next slide, please. So this is what our plans are for 2025. So for 2025, we intend to reach voters through those different subcategories that I had on the previous slide. We will, of course, have our social media. We will have search and display ads. We'll be on over-the-top television. So for example, if you're on YouTube and you get an ad, or you're watching Hulu or something like that, those ads that pop up, things like that, we will connect with voters. So we'll have those video ads. We'll have our traditional media. So of course we'll run print ads. So if there's again, a voter registration deadline. We can run a print ad for that, a radio read, letting voters know, okay, if we are in Native American communities, if we're up in Apache County, we can run a radio read on KTNN stating, okay, election day is Tuesday this day. This is how you find your voting location. Out of home media is very effective too. So billboards. So when people are driving and they see those billboards, they can know to come to the Clean Elections website. This is very effective too for our rural communities as well. Actually, out of home is really increasing too. So we really have to work with our partners and purchase the inventory for this in advance because it's a very highly utilized media tactic. So it works well. But again, we are making these decisions, one, based off of our budget, but two, looking at where our target audience is going to consume media and meeting them where they are. So if you look at this this graph here, you can see that it's pretty even. There's you could tell, you could just look from the social media where we have about 25%, the over the top 20%, the paid search. It's a very comprehensive plan. And so we're grateful to work with our experienced partners. So again, we can get the most effectiveness out of our budget and knowing that we are going directly to where those voters consume that media. Next slide, please. Of course, through all of that paid media, the goal is to send them to our website. Our website is where we have all of that information. So all of that outreach work that Alec is doing to talk to our local election officials and get all of the information they need to put on our website, that's where we're driving voters to. So the goal is, again, we could be very direct in those paid media communications. Voter registration deadline is this date, but go to azcleanelections.gov so that you can learn the requirements to register to vote. You can register to vote online. We walk them through the process. We are also looking at updating our website. Last year, we went through a redesign and we continue to work on our website to make sure that it meets the needs of voters. So this means we will be adding new content to it. We will be refreshing content. Depending on any law changes that occur, we'll make sure that our website is the most accurate and up-to-date election website for our voters. And then, of course, just making those general optimizations. We're going to be reviewing the page speeds. So if you go to our website and you pull it up on your mobile phone, how long is it taking to load? Things like that. So again, making sure that our website is really the best performing possible website out there for voters. We are continuing to work on the recommendations from the Governor's Task Force, Elections Task Force, that we started work on last year. So the goal is to continue to work with the Secretary of State's office to get access to the voter registration information that we need, because once we have that data, we have so many more opportunities to provide such detailed voting information for voters, such as if you're in Pinal County, you can now look up your assigned polling place to on the website. We can provide candidate information all the way down to on our website, such as Justice of the Peace. We can provide more customized information to voters once we get access to that data. So we are making progress on that. Next slide, please. And then the following few slides will really focus on public relations and outreach. So, of course, we're going to be out in the community, boots on the ground, having our face out there. That's really important to us. This is a lot of the good work that Avery is doing in connecting directly with voters in the community. It helps build trust, but also, again, that brand recognition for seeing clean elections out there. And then, of course, the ability to talk directly to voters as opposed through not just our website. And it really gets us that face-to-face connection with voters. The other idea that we have, too, is specific to our Native American outreach. We want to continue to partner with our colleagues in that area. And this includes potentially meeting with tribal elders, working with ITCA, working directly with the Get Out the Vote groups that represent tribal communities. And one idea that we're really excited about to share here is the Arizona Native Vote Collection. We're excited to endeavor on this, where we would, in the means of appreciating the Native American culture and recognizing civic engagement, we want to do a call for art, for an original art piece that really represents voting from our respective Arizona tribes, and then take that collective art and use it for some of the Clean Elections merchandise that we pass out. So whether that's a hat or it's a t-shirt that we develop, when we go to these community events in person, we typically bring what we call swag because it helps get people to our booth to talk to us. So it's an effective way to get the attention of voters. So one of the ideas that we have is specifically to work with the Native American communities and look for this expressive art and translate that into, what it means for voting, this original vote art form, and then represent that in Clean Elections merchandise.
I have a comment.
Commissioner Payton?
When I used to work in the reservation years ago in cells, they have community events where something like that. They have used to be called the Papago Rodeo. Now it's I'm sure the Autumn Rodeo, but there's people from all over the reservation go to that rodeo. I think it's maybe in October or there maybe in the spring. I forget now, but thousands of people go to those, and the Native Americans love the rodeos. So that may be something you can find out when their rodeos are. And you're going to get a lot of people showing up for those. And it's like a multiple day affair.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Payton, commissioners, absolutely. Those are the type of events that we look for, especially when they have such a high traffic of people. That makes it really effective for us in terms of our time to go there. So we will absolutely look for that particular event. Thank you for that. All right, next slide, please.
Yeah, Chairman.
Commissioner Taylor.
Commissioner Tilla?
Yeah, the rodeo my fellow colleague is referring to is the Tohono O'odham Rodeo, they call it now. It's this weekend. This weekend is that their annual rodeo over there in Sells, Arizona. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Tilla.
Mr.
Gina?
Chairman, commissioners, we will continue to look for more opportunities like that. Thank you. For the current slide that we're on, let's see, current issues, production, and thought leadership. So coming off of 2024, we held great conversations with candidates about the issues that voters identified were important to them. This was in our candidate debates, but also in our debates that we held on certain propositions too. So during 2024, Clean Elections brought a conversation to voters about top issues affecting the state. We want to keep that going. We don't want to lose that momentum. So we want to keep going in 2026 so voters will stay engaged on these issues, these important conversations about what Arizona voters care about. So the thought is, potentially we could do polls around the state about, okay, what are the issues that are important to you right now? These are the items that are going through the legislature right now, and potentially host roundtable discussions with these voters. Maybe it's a town hall. Maybe it's something that we can actually record and work with our partners at the Arizona Media Association to disseminate to the news. But the thought is that we will keep this public dialogue going on the issues that are impacting the state of Arizona right now. That keeps us going without thought leadership. People will continue to look to Clean Elections on these important discussions. And we don't lose the momentum from 2024, but then it also prepares us for the continuation of our 2026 debates. So again, polling voters, talking directly to them. What issues do you care about? Are you concerned about the budget right now? Are you concerned about schools and the management of money? Are you concerned about healthcare right now? So having these discussions on these important topics will continue to keep Arizona voters in that civic engagement, but participation in the political process mind frame. And again, really lead directly into our 2026 debate cycle. Next slide, please. And then again, as part of our outreach, we will continue to work with our wonderful partners at our 15 counties. So we have many new county recorders that were elected this year. There's plenty of new election staff as well. So the thought is we want to keep that relationship going with our election colleagues and Clean Elections. And we'd love to go out to each county, visit with them, get an understanding of what are your voter education needs for your county. What are voters contacting you about? And just work directly with their communications and outreach staff. What projects do they have going on? Look for ideas for possible collaboration. For example, ALEC right now is working with Coconino County to develop signage. They need help in communicating with their voters who come in person to vote. And so we're working on, okay, what signage can we prepare for them to help them through this voting process in a way that's easy to follow, it's clean and clear. And so again, just working with our county partners to see what is your voter education need for your county and how can we work together. Next slide, please. Extending on that is doing even more local government outreach. Arizona has 91 cities and towns. These cities and towns are, again, that's local government, that is direct government. These local elections that we are having this year, those are the ones that arguably impact voters even more so than some of our statewide elections. So we would love to do more connections and meet and greets with our city clerks across the state. The city clerks are responsible, well, really they're a hub. They're really responsible for doing many things, but it includes elections, but it also includes they prepare for their city council agendas. They know all of the issues that are going on. The city clerk is really the information center. So a member of the public will go to the city clerk and seek direction. So the city clerk's office is a wonderful opportunity for us to connect with and talk directly to them. What's going on with your local elections? How can we, potentially collaborate on voter education and outreach? And, what content do you need? What do your voters need? And additionally, many of our local governments have their own TV channel as well, too. So they have their government TV station. So for example, this, Phoenix TV, City of Peoria, Cox Channel 11, some of them even have their own production studios on their city campuses. So the thought here is, okay, we can, if their residents know about this, we can then potentially run some of our media on their communication channels. Maybe they can even pick up our debate and run it too when we're preparing in 2026. So how great would that be for somebody who's in Tucson to tune into Channel 12 and see whether it's the legislative district or if it's a congressional district debate that impacts and covers Tucson, they can turn right there to watch it as well too. So the thought is to connect more with our local government not just election officials, but our local government officials to see how can we continue, one, to promote that participation in the political process, getting people to attend those city council meetings, review those council packets, but also learning about their local elections too. Next slide, please. And then more at the local event or local level is looking at Chamber of Commerce events. This is the business community here at the local level. So the business community represents a large portion of voters, and speaking directly to them about voting and civic engagement, promoting that civic health within the business community. So looking at upcoming chamber events that Clean Elections staff can go to and attend and speak to these local elections for that particular jurisdiction. We really want to focus on this in our outlying counties and our rural counties. We think we could have some great success there. So that's probably where we're going to start off. But really connecting with the business community at the local level to reach those voters directly as well too. Next slide, please. And then of course, this is the only photo I included. And then, of course, continuing on with our civic education. So civic education is critical to producing a voter, to producing a lifelong voter. And we want to continue to work in that area. So as we mentioned before, we will be working on issue 2 of Captain Activate. We're also going to be doing a call for artists. So we are looking to the art community that is local here and seeing, is there anybody who's interested in working with us on designing the cover for the next issue? Trying to get our local comic book stores, our local artists involved in this project as well too, to again help promote that civic education component and really have that community connection. We are launching a refresh of our civics curriculum. We have a civics curriculum that's for 4th through 6th grade, 7th through 8th, and 9th through 12th. And we've been updating that accordingly. And we're also redesigning it to making it more digestible for our teachers and for our students. And so we're working on refreshing that. And then as soon as that's done, we're going to again push it out to all of our educators across the state. And then attending those conferences. So if there's an educator conference, if there's a civic conference, we like to be there in person. We host tables. We bring our election information, our civics information. And so we're going to continue to build our relationship and our partnerships with schools. I think when you saw the presentation of our recap for last year, Captain Activate is a great way for us to get into those schools. We attended assemblies. We had conversations about, civic education. We had conversations about how to research candidates, voting, voter registration. So continuing to make our way into the classrooms, both, with our K through 12, but also our colleges and universities as well, to, again, promote that civic education. Specifically with our colleges and universities, we had a great opportunity last year to partner with Arizona State University and their athletics department to provide information on civil discourse, how to have conversations that are difficult in a civil manner, again, how elections work and government works. And so we were able to develop this programming, and we had several events with them, which was fantastic. And we want to expand that and reach out to all of our community colleges across the state and all of our universities so we can continue to share that information so that we can reach those students directly. Next slide, please. We are also going to be launching a podcast. So our hope is to do a podcast for our Arizona voters and really connect with information in a way that we know podcasts are very popular, connect and provide this important information to voters, again, in a consumable way, ways that we know people are utilizing, how they are accepting information. So previously, what we've done is we have filmed subject matter expert videos where we would have somebody who would come in and talk to us about the economy, how the economy works. We had conversations about abortion. We've had conversations about the budget. So all of those top issues that voters have identified to us in our polling and our research, we would bring in subject matter experts to talk about these. So the thought is we would redesign that and turn those into podcasts. We would also break down government topics. So explaining how does Social Security work? How does the school choice and ESA vouchers work? Explaining how these government topics work to the Arizona electorate. We could collaborate with other podcasts. And again, of course, all of this leads back to voting and voter education. So when we are in election, bringing in a county elections director to talk about the upcoming election, bringing in somebody from the city of Tucson to explain what that proposition does. So hosting this, creating this podcast as another tool to communicate with voters on these important subjects. Next slide, please. And then, of course, we have to utilize this year to plan for next year. So we will be looking at our planning and production for 2026. This includes developing those creative assets for our elections for next year, for our primary and general. Again, this comes off of the research that we're doing this year. We take that research, we develop a communications plan that responds directly to what voters have told us in those surveys and those focus groups. And then we create those assets this year. That way we're ready to deploy those in 2026. And then, of course, we create our plan, our timeline. We look at what elections we're going to be having this next year. When are we going to be out in paid media? What is our plan to start communicating to voters about debates, about the voter education guide? So we do all of that work in advance. Next slide. We also need to start preparing for our 2026 debates production as well. For example, we held our debates at Bitfire that is not an option going forward because Bitfire has sold their company. So we have to look now for where are we going to be producing these debates, our physical location. We have to identify that production studio. We have to start communicating with candidates now. Candidates are already announcing that they are running for 2026 offices or, for the 2026 ballot. So we need to be a part of that conversation now to let these folks know you will want to block time on your calendar for the clean elections debates. We need to look at our format and the technical components of it. And the design of it, what that will look like. We need to have conversations about our moderators again. How are we going to do that? How are we going to select those moderators? We need to look at our legislative debates as well, too. So we have the production for that. How can we better disseminate those videos? Again, going back to maybe those government channels, things like that. So we have to start the planning of that now because the calendars and how much our debate process has grown, we really must start that work now to stay on top of things. With the debate lineup there, we have for 2026 our congressional districts. We will have the governor on the ballot for the first time ever, a lieutenant governor, and then of course all of our statewide offices, our corporation commissioners, our legislative districts. We have local races, and we'll see what ballot measures end up on 2026 as well too. So we have to start. These are such massive productions. We have to start the work now. Next slide, please. With that also comes the preparation of our voter guide. We consistently see from our research that the voter education guide is ranked as one of the top trusted sources from voters. With that, we want to make sure that we aren't stagnant with that information. We want to, again, continue to look at our research. What are voters telling us what they need? And reimagine the voter guide to make sure we are meeting those needs. That could be, something as simple as adding another page of additional content, explaining something or providing more information about the voting process, again, depending on our research. We also want to talk to our county election officials. So every time we have a production of a voter guide, we send bulk shipments to all of our 15 counties. They then put those at the voting locations. They keep them in their office. They are also distributing those to voters, which means they are also on the receiving end of questions for that guide. Voters often call our county election folks with questions on it. So we want to talk to them and say, what are you hearing from voters? Most often it's, we want more candidates. So learning more about that and getting their feedback on the voter guide and how it could be more useful to the counties as well. And so again, just looking at our voter guide, determining potential changes, because if we do that this year, that'll give us time, one, to implement both the technical side of things and then working with our vendors to make sure we can produce those changes. And then with that, our next slide, that is the main guts of our plan this year. Of course, we will continue to be flexible when we have county election officials that reach out to us, have projects, things like that, events. We will be able to respond to those quickly, but this is the majority of our goals that we have presented to the commission for consideration. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Gina. Any comments or questions from members of the commission? Commissioner Payton?
Now, I don't know, you may do this already, but I was thinking that particularly from before the next big election in 26, if you and your crew, do you ever go to like the tailgating before games, like the Wildcats or the ASU games? The ASU U of A games always after the election, so that wouldn't be good. But you're going to have all these Arizona people coming to those things, and maybe you could do one ASU tailgating thing, or maybe one Arizona one, and one at NAU or whatever. Find out when the big game is coming up, and you're going to have plenty of people, and most of them are going to have Arizona connections. So the biggest one would be U of A ASU, but that's after the election, so that wouldn't be any good. So that was my comment.
Mr.
Thank you,
Chairman?
Gina.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Payton, yes, absolutely love that idea because that connects us again also with those college students who need a lot of support when it comes to voting. But of course, our general population as well, everybody attends those.
Right. There could be children there. And so your Captain Activate guy could be roaming around doing his cartwheels, and you can passing out your stuff that you have?
So a few things that we have in the works right now for that. We have been working with U of A, and they're trying to connect their mascot with Captain Activate. They've presented a couple of opportunities for us that we need to nail down and figure out how we're going to do that. At the end of last year, Tom was able to go up to NAU with Captain Activate to a basketball game and attend theirs. But those are absolutely great ideas. I'm happy to volunteer for the tailgating and to staff those tables, and we can definitely manage those tables and bring our outreach and resources there too.
For
'Cause you're right.
instance, I mean, this would be too soon. I mean, the ASU is playing Arizona in basketball on Saturday, but that would be too soon to try to figure something out. But they're going to play another basketball game in Tucson, and so that may be a good opportunity. That should probably be within maybe a month and a half or so. Maybe you could plan something for that time period.
Mr. Chairman, commissioners, absolutely. We will take a look at the schedule. Might have to get Captain Activate a ASU shirt.
Captain Activate, he can't wear an ASU shirt
Yeah.
in Tucson.
Oh, come on.
No. Any other comments or questions from members of the commission? Commissioner Werther?
Gina, thank you for the presentation. That's a lot that goes into the planning, I know, for all of this. So in terms of, I guess I would say municipal, right, to kind of support city towns and their voter education. I know that Clean Elections already has gone some to like their annual elections conference through the clerks. So I know that's a great opportunity. I know they also have like their spring and their fall, which are usually much smaller and more virtual, but that's also might be another opportunity for, you know what I mean, to kind of reach out to the clerks about different opportunities to engage with them. And then also I was going to say, I don't know that you guys have ever been to the league conference. Because that one, I mean, obviously it's a big conference. All the city and town officials and staff, you know, from around the state come to that. It's a huge conference. It's usually in August. I think this year it's going to be at the Princess. So, I mean, that might be something because obviously they do have vendor tables as well to have Clean Elections presence there. And then I was going to ask, because I know we have more local information on the website, but in terms of like the voter education guide, I do know like some of that is limited. Is there something in there that essentially says, hey, are you looking for your city town candidates? And then sort of kind of directs them to, hey, you need to go to your jurisdictional webpage, or I don't know, some type of almost just general comment maybe. So that way they understand, why am I not seeing something in here? Oh, I have to go elsewhere. That would just be one other suggestion.
Mr. Chairman and Commissioner Werther and commissioners, absolutely. Thank you. And our plan was to actually speak to you directly too with your contacts with our cities and the league conference. Absolutely. We know that what, 1,000 folks show up there.
1,400 last year.
Right. And that includes members of the legislature too. And so not just our local county, but that is a wonderful opportunity for us to look into. And then, of course, you know, looking potentially meeting with the clerk's president and the executive officers. We actually do send out bulk shipments to our clerks too, who request it. And then within the printed voter guide, we do make reference of, if you're looking for your local candidates, your council candidates, you can go to our website for those names, because one of the things Alex works on is he also pulls all of the names for those local candidates and lists them on our website too. So we do direct them there for that. But absolutely, and we look forward to more suggestions on how we can connect with our local clerks and local government. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions from commissioners? Commissioner Payton.
I was also thinking, could we do like a section of our website explaining about the new lieutenant governor, what the duties are, what you know, all the kind of requirements for it, and is it tied to the governor, and because it's going to be all new to everybody. So I think maybe if we explained that position, like on our website, that may benefit quite a few people.
Mr. Chairman, commissioners, absolutely. That's a wonderful idea.
Anything else from members of the commission? If not, is there a motion to approve the 2025 voter education plan?
Motion to approve the 2025 voter education plan.
Thank you, Commissioner Werther. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
It's been moved by Commissioner Werther, seconded by Commissioner Payton, that we approve the 2024 voter education plan. I will call the roll. Commissioner Chan,
Aye.
Commissioner Titla,
Aye.
Commissioner Payton,
Aye.
Commissioner Werther.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. The voter education plan is approved 5-0. Thank you very much, Gina. Item 5, public comment. This is the time for consideration of comments and suggestions from the public. Action taken as a result of public comment will be limited to directing staff to study the matter, rescheduling the matter for further consideration, or responding to criticism. Please limit your comment to no more than 2 minutes. Does anyone on Zoom want to make a comment? Don't see anyone. No? Okay. And then there's no one here that wants to make a comment. The public may also send comments to the commission by email at ccec@cleanelections.gov. Item 10, at this time I would, well, it's not really 10, it's 6. At this time, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
Thank you, Commissioner Werther. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Commissioner Payton. I will call the roll. Commissioner Chan,
Aye.
Commissioner Titla,
Aye.
Commissioner Payton,
Aye.
Commissioner Werther,